Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Brad, welcome to Consulting Leaders. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
My pleasure. Let's jump straight into it. So, what I love about people who are in an industry for multiple decades is that they know a thing or two about doing business right. So, what got you into coaching in the first place, and what is it that you do exactly?
Well, I was in executive search for a while, and then I realized that I'm probably better on the back end of the handshake than the front end of the handshake. So I networked my way into a global firm, DBM, and I was with them for 17 years as a senior consultant, working with senior executives. And my dad always told me, if you're not the lead dog in the sled, the view never changes. So I decided to do my own thing. And the industry was going one way, more of a commodity business, and I wanted to do it more of a personal business, personalized business in transition coaching. And I did that for a while. And then customers started asking me, well, can you work with this person? Can you work with this lady? Well, what would that look like? What would it cost? So I kind of moved into it. I have been doing it for a long time, but I when I formalized it, I had to have a deliverable and all that other stuff that goes with it. And so I've been doing that since about 2012. So what is it? 13 years of executive coaching. I've been doing the transition stuff for 20 years before that.
Why coaching? Why not staying at the front end of the handshake? Why deciding to
I
start
didn't
this in
like it.
2013?
I come from a retail background, and headhunting is basically done over the phone. I didn't like it. It wasn't me. It took me a while to understand that, but I'm put me in a room. That's what I do.
Love that. And I'm visiting the US right now, where all my clients are, and like in person is completely different than doing things remotely. You can in 2025 for sure, but being able to be in person, that's a game changer. So can you walk us through what problem you solve exactly in your coaching practice, right?
Well, I don't know if it's a problem, but I I have, and first of all, I am too stupid to complicate things. So I like to keep things very simple. I keep them very
Which
simple
is
with my
smart.
clients. We live in a world of sound bites. Okay. Um, I work in kind of two buckets. One bucket is development, where you have executive that you've just promoted or increased their span of control, and they want to go to the next level. The company wants to keep them and go to the next level. Um, Coaching has changed over the years. It used to be you don't have you have a coach, what's wrong with you? And now it's you don't have a coach, what's wrong with you? So there is the development piece, and then there's what I call the career impact piece, which is more of a change engagement. And by change engagement, you typically find those in technical functional environments, um, engineering, IT, accounting, finance, um, and healthcare, anywhere where they promote their best clinicians. And the person could be brilliant, have a brilliant work product, but be rough on the furniture, has very limited interpersonal skills. And I always like to say the soft skills are the hard skills. The soft skills are what makes a leader, and those have to be developed. Now, before accepting an engagement, a quote, change engagement or career impact engagement, my first question is this is this a coaching opportunity, or is this a behavioral issue? Because if it's a behavioral issue, coaching, I don't think, is the answer. It's been my experience that when you work with someone and they do really well once they're with their coach, but the company sometimes drops the ball in going forward, and they don't take the development plan and include that in their yearly evaluation. So it's difficult. It's a hard call to make on the front end, but I would rather not have that business than have the business and where the person probably shouldn't have had a coach to begin with.
A lot of things I want to dig further into here. First off, so just we are crystal clear, who is your ideal clients? Like, because executive coaching is broad, right? And I
Right.
understand that to really be able to provide that level of help that you probably charge for your service, you bring in a deep expertise. But who is it? So you mentioned different functions, different industries. Who do you specialize on helping exactly right now?
Well, I like to work with executives who want to understand where their disconnect is. Where in other words, where are they now? Where they want to be, and how they're going to get there. And it's, anybody can look through a window. It takes a very special type of individual to look in a mirror and see themselves. And if they're not willing to work in a mirror, they're probably not coachable, and they're probably not um, motivated to change. So I'm looking for people who want to improve, who will take the time and look in a mirror and understand what they see. It's pretty simple.
Like that. The other thing that you mentioned, which I might steal from you, hope you don't mind, Brad, is 10, 20 years ago, right? You have a coach, what's wrong with you? And today it's much more, you don't have a coach, what's wrong with you? Why do you think is that? What changed?
I think I think the whole world of work has changed, and executives are being asked to do more with less. And when you get promoted and you have a span of control increased, there's any different reasons. But I'll give you an example. I'm working with a president of a hospital, and it's a new campus. He was the um, administrator, and they told him that the healthcare company told him that they want to help him because he's got a big job and it's going to get bigger, and they wanted to provide him with a coach to help him get over the rough spots and maybe help him see one and two steps ahead. So I was brought in, and I'm still working with him. We've been working together. He's now the president, and we've been working together for about 2 years.
Wait, so that's super interesting. At the level you're working at, is it the executive that comes and see you and try to work with you, or is it the company pulling you in to help their executives?
It's usually the company. Yeah. And
Interesting.
sometimes, they're providing three coaches, and the individual interviews all of us and then decides which way he or she wants to go. Or if I know the company very well. I've been working with them for a while, and they say, "Look, we want to talk to you about this engagement. What do you think?" Like for one, I said uh, it was a woman who was a physician and head of a specific unit, and I talked to her and I said, I think she would be better served working with a woman than me. I'm not for everybody, and not every coach is for everybody. So we had two ladies, two women, very good. Um, One of them was my old boss, matter of fact, and they interviewed both. She interviewed both of them, chose the one she wanted. She chose the softer of the two, and that's fine.
So I love this, and I have so many follow-up questions. So the first one is, who's the decision maker then? Because you work with executives, but it's the company bringing you in. So who do you advertise to, and who is it within the company that is pulling you in? Is it the head of HR? Is it the head of learning and development? Is it the head of
Sometimes,
people?
yeah, sometimes it is. Um, a lot of times, and especially, I've got a pretty good network, so my business is based on referrals. I think any coach is as good as their last conversation, and
This is so good.
if I that's the way I look at things. I mean, I've had companies that, they do this review every year, and they get this round table, and they talk about the specific person, and if there's a problem, then they say, well, we'll have Brad work with him. But what I found out was the problem was generated in a conversation that person had within the last 2 weeks. So it's not an overall development. It just, and it was a professional services firm. So it can be anything. I worked with a surgeon who was a surgeon, a very good surgeon and a real good guy, um, who was a little rough on the surgical staff. And so I worked with him for 6 months, 9 months, whatever it was. Good guy, smart guy, fun to work with. He told me, um, he called me one day and he said, I'm walking back from the operating room and I heard your voice say, I'm only as good as my last conversation. And I said, well, then it's working. He goes, I'll never forget that. So, it's the simple things. It's not I don't like to complicate things.
No, it's so funny. I don't remember which context it was exactly, but I think it was in basketball. And I wonder if it wasn't Michael Jordan, who was like, everybody was asking, but why do you give your 200% self for each and every game? And he was like, the dad who works 3 jobs, who paid $500 to be able to attend the match with his son at the very back end of the stadium. That's the night for him. That's everything. We owe him to give it all. Like every match is the last impression that you're gonna make to this dad and his son, and you better give your 200%.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
love how you reframe that for coaching. So back to the business of B2B coaching, and I love your niche, Brad, because it's so specific. So how do you differentiate yourself from those two other coaches that are also interviewed by the firm? The reason I'm asking this is, whilst now, if you don't have a coach, people ask what's wrong with you. I also feel that there is an overwhelmingly growing amount of coaches, and everybody wants to work with executives because this is where the money is. So, how do you brand yourself, market yourself, show the executives that they're going to get value from it, but at the same time sell to the actual decision makers, the head of HRs, all whilst differentiating from the other executive coaches? Like,
Yeah.
How do you come
Well,
about a
here's
good
here's
outcome?
what I've learned along the way. Okay. Um, that if you don't have a differentiator or you don't take the time to develop one, you don't have a choice. You have to lower your price. So over time and with input from my customers, I have developed a process, and I'm not the only one that has this process. But I can remember being called in by companies and said, we had a couple of coaches in here. They just disappeared with our guy behind closed doors for like 6 months. And then they came out and they said they were cured. They were good to go. And in the coaching profession, the bar to get in has never been lower. The bar to succeed has never been higher. And so I developed, with help, um, a process that involves the stakeholders. Because if you don't involve the stakeholders, your client has to improve 100% just to get 10% credit. And that's not right. So it's like I said, where are you now? Where do you want to be? Here's how we're going to get there. And here is how you and everybody else that has a stake in your future are going to know that you're there. And here's how you're going to sustain that growth. Because a coach is in your life for a defined period of time to help you achieve a certain couple of goals, and then he or she leaves. Where a mentor is in your life, can be, for your entire career. So there's a big difference. Sometimes they're confused. That people think they're the same and they're not. So what I like to do is I don't accept any engagement less than 6 months.
Interesting.
A lot of times it takes you 2 months just so the client knows what the heck you're talking about. And Actually, it's 7 months because I do a 360, what I call a soft 360. So I talk to about 20 people. And then I have a number of assessments that I give them. One is a communication assessment, because if you can't communicate, you can't lead. And then I roll all that up into a development plan. That takes about, depending on schedules, 3 to 4 weeks. Takes me a while to write it. I submit it to the stakeholders, and which are like if it's a VP, it would be the president, his or her boss. And I say, okay, here's where we're going. Do you agree? Is this the right path? And they say yes, or
Are
they'll say,
you
I'd like to include this. That rarely happens. And then I meet with the client. I go over the 360 feedback, and only the client and I see the feedback. And there's like 7 questions. And then I give him or her the development plan, and they read it, they sign it, I sign it. I ask them to give themselves a letter grade. I said, pretend you're back in college. You give yourself a letter grade, and then we're going to figure out your grade point. And then what I do is I check in with the stakeholders again after 90 days to see what the progress is, and have they seen a change. And then I do the same thing at the end of the 6 months, and then we grade him and put a letter grade, a grade point, and then I give him an evaluation of me to fill out and then send to his boss or her boss or whoever. But I don't want to see it. I mean, my deal is you send it to them, you send it to me. I don't want to see it before they do.
No. What's the game plan for you when it comes to so when I was a consultant at PricewaterhouseCooper, the partner who taught me everything told me the following. Like there are two type of consultants. There are the consultants who get business, like they're hunters,
Right.
and you have the farmers.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm a hunter. I love the smell of blood in the morning.
Yeah.
Um, but the best consultants out there are the farmers, the ones who are able to transform one initial engagement, over deliver, and then transform it into a multi-layered, multi-year project.
Right.
How do you do that? You work with the executives, but your actual decision maker is the head of HR, the head of people. So how do you deliver value and transform that coaching with a client that lasted at least 6 months into a multi-year, multi-layered,
You just
potentially other executives within the company?
you just do your job. I mean, you're providing a
Next
service.
question.
People, I mean, if you're providing a service, you are the service, right? And I'm as good as my last client, I'm as good as my last conversation. If I remember that, I get business. The other thing I've realized, and again, I learned this the hard way, it's not about the money, it's about the relationship. If you take care of the relationship, the money will be there. But don't accept an engagement just because of money. I did that early on. Bad mistake. Never done it. Haven't done it again. Won't do it. I'll walk away before I do it. The other part you said was
Sure.
interesting. There's hunters and there's skinners, right? And coaches like to coach, they don't like to sell. And there is a book called The Prosperous Coach. And I liked it. It was short, had nice pictures, big print, my kind of book. And he said that talked about starving coaches. And he had an illustration, if you will, two rectangular boxes. And the starving coach, this is what it looks like. And a prosperous coach, this is the overlap because they can do both, right?
Amen.
Um, it's and when you're talking to a company about this, it's if you don't know how to listen to understand, you'll never make it. Most
So
people listen to reply.
yeah.
In consultative selling, you have to listen to understand, and a lot of times your value is determined by the information you gather, not the information you dispense.
So I like what you're saying, Brad. The thing is, so that role, and I think it's the same for consultants, right? They love to consult, they don't like to sell,
Right.
especially with the like such long sales cycles that you tend to have in B2B coaching and consulting. So
Exactly.
in your experience, how do you bring home a deal? Meaning you've done the effort of delivering a good job, you have your brand speaking for you, you have your network speaking for you, but how do you go from initial conversations to, SOW, level of engagement, okay, we rock and roll?
Well, I think, in the initial conversations, and typically in in my practice, um, I have pretty good relationships with these people. So my job is to sell the person I'm going to coach. Okay. I remember I had lunch with one woman who was pretty rough on the furniture. And she said, so I had lunch with her and we were, feeling each other out. And she said, and I was schooled by the company. I knew the situation going in. And she said, I'm very direct. I mean, this is 5 minutes in the conversation. I'm very direct. And I said, so am I. And my question is, can you take it as well as you dish it out? And she said, try me. And I said, your people don't like working for you. She goes, well, that's just one person. I said, no, it's not. It's about 80% of the department. and she just, and I worked with her for 9 months, had a great relationship. I really liked her. She's a terrific lady, terrific lady.
So not being afraid to make them swallow the bitter pill is how you get the sales done then. It's like, look, I'm gonna deliver value here and there. Here is the tough feedback that no one is telling you.
Yeah, well, I'm an advocate for my clients. So if they do better, I get more business. So it's like I said, it's pretty it's pretty simple.
Rather
And
straightforward.
I've learned that, being direct is an art. It saves time. Um, and I mean, if you want to know what I'm thinking, just tell me. I think there's a value in that for coaches. That's what you get paid for. And it's just the way, I mean, that's my philosophy.
I like it. What's the so clearly you're very much providing an excellent service focused, which is the best way to do business, in my opinion. If you have this, then clients come. Where are you stuck right now, Brad? The reason I'm asking this is I think there will be some people listening to us right now, and when the episode goes live, who might be stuck at the same point as you. And it's always great to hear from our peers how they think about solving a specific problem. So where do you feel stuck right now in your executive coaching practice?
Well, I don't know that I am stuck, but when I was stuck, I I looked at my network and I bought a lot of lunches and a lot of coffees. Okay. And somebody said, "Well, where is your office?" I said, "It's where my daughter's bedroom used to be." I could buy a lot of coffee for what I would pay in office rent. Um, and I would just say, "Hey, look, here's what I'm doing. What are your thoughts? Who do you know that I should speak with?" Um, I mean, one guy who used to work for me, he said, "Well, what do you want?" I said, "I just want the conversation because opportunities begin with conversations." And
Tell me about it.
I'm controlling the narrative when I'm asking the probing questions, and that's what consultative selling is all about. And I also, when I started, I looked at I looked at all my network, and then I separated them: A prospects, B prospects, and C prospects. In other words, A prospects, they had the pencil. They could write the business, right? They could sign the check. I mean, and so I started with the C's because I knew I was going to screw up. I knew I was going to fail, and I wanted to do it where it wasn't going to hurt me. So I started. That's why I believe the good Lord invented minor leagues, so you can learn their craft, and when you get up to the big time, you can maximize it.
I think so that's more for people starting out, which is not most of our audience, but still I think people underestimate the value of doing work for free when they start to get the results to the smaller businesses and the smaller people, smaller in the sense of like less budget, less capacity,
Yeah,
less resources, who will
yeah.
be
Some do
more
that.
willing to exactly, and
Some
to
do
build
that.
the case studies, to build
I
the
don't.
proof, to build the experience.
Right. I don't. It's a business. I don't give anything away. Don't believe
Now,
in it. Never have.
sure.
Takes a little longer. I remember I had one guy who ran a transition group, and he said, "How do I charge for this? I've been doing it for free for so long. Now I want to get people to pay." Good luck, you know. Um,
Yeah, there are ways to go about it, but I get it. The transition might be painful.
well, here's another thing too. A lot of coaches they like to coach, they don't like to sell, they don't know how to sell, so they join. And this is my opinion, okay? There'll be a lot of people that disagree with this, but this is my opinion. And what they do is they join professional groups, and so they are networking with their competitors. I've never done this. When I got into it, I had a pretty good network, and I used that network for contacts, and it over time it evolved. There's when you start out, you have a period of what I call buzzard luck. You can't kill anything and nothing will die for you, but you just kind of keep at it. And if you believe in your product, which is you, then it'll happen.
Amen. Brad, ladies and gentlemen, Brad, if people want to find out more about you and what you do, where should they go?
You can go to my website, bsmithcc.com, or look me up on LinkedIn, or you can call me at 469-995-5459. All this information is on my website.
We'll put all the links in the description. I can vouch that the phone number is working because we had to use it to set up this whole recording. So I called Brad personally. And for the links, we will put everything in the description. And for what I'm concerned, Brad, you earned at least one new connection on LinkedIn because I'm just adding you. Brad,
Cool.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, you ask good questions. They're thoughtful questions. I appreciate that. I really do. And thank you for your time.
I appreciate you, man, and thanks a lot for the compliment.
Have a good day.
Thank you so much.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.